All right, let's do it. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Shea Sr. Appreciate all of you for hanging out here with us. Coming up on the show, some former Niners players that San Francisco can bring back in NFL free agency. This is why you subscribe to the channel, though. We do it all right here on the Niners Report, from news and analysis to breaking news coverage to Niners draft content, 49ers free agency intel, and during the season, watch parties for every single game. More than 2 million views for our Super Bowl watch party between the Niners and the Chiefs. We also do a couple of live shows. And because this channel has been so successful, because of all of you continuing to support what I do, we've been pushing out 2 shows per day, a lot of days of the week, because the views are so good and we want to continue to give you some great content. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go into the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis next week. Lock us in for some more terrific Niners coverage. To our list of former Niners who San Francisco could reunite with in NFL free agency. I'd say that cornerback is a sneaky need for San Francisco. So how about going back to Emanuel Mosley, who unfortunately for him has had a couple of injury-plagued seasons in 2023 as well as in 2022. Niners picked him up originally as a UDFA out of Tennessee in 2018. And what a great signing that ended up being, because Emanuel Mosley developed into a very solid cornerback for this Niners defense. 6 games played, though, over the last 2 years, and for him, it's been an unfortunate stretch, because before he tore his ACL in 2022 with San Francisco, he was playing great ball, and he actually got hurt when he was playing against the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte, when he had a bunch of his family members and friends there to support him, because he's from that area, and tore his ACL then, and then tore his ACL with the Detroit Lions. Both of those ACL tears have come on turf surfaces, and we know that San Francisco is very, very picky about the types of surfaces they practice on, a la what happened in the lead up to the Super Bowl, as well as the surfaces that they play on for actual games. In-depth information on Mosley here. Prior to that injury in his last year with San Francisco, he had a Pro Football Focus coverage grade of 73.5. Excellent numbers. And in 2021 and in 2022 combined, he gave up just 1 touchdown in coverage with 11 pass breakups. Why I'd entertain bringing him back, because of the injuries, you can get him at a very cheap price, but he's also very versatile at a position that you probably need to fortify. Inside, outside, perimeter, slot versatility for him. Obviously, he would come to the Niners with a lot of concerns. But if you're not paying him all that much money, then I'd certainly explore this. The injury history is there, but the upside, you get a cheap player who's affordable, who is really good when healthy, knows the system, and we know that he can ball. Now to Kendrick Bourne. For him, I understood why he left to sign with the New England Patriots in free agency a couple of years ago, because he earned the opportunity to really cash in. And Jauan Jennings is the Niners wide receiver 3. We'll see what happens with Brandon Ayuk this offseason. Jennings is going to be a restricted free agent. If another team gives him the bag and that price tag is way too high for what the Niners are willing to give him, San Francisco might have their hand forced to the point where they need to let Jauan Jennings walk. And if they let him go because other teams see how Jauan Jennings is so clutch on third downs, how he's tough and rugged as a run blocker, how he's been so clutch for this football team, and how he played in the Super Bowl where he was arguably, outside of Brandon Ayuk, the Niners' best wide receiver, then Kendrick Bourne is an option, because really, Kendrick Bourne was Jauan Jennings for the Niners before Jauan Jennings. Last 4 years for Bourne, in 2023, only 8 games played, 55 targets, 37 catches, 406 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Year before that, as Mac Jones has just really struggled to start his career, 48 targets, 35 catches, 434 yards, and a touchdown. But then you look back at what he did in 2021, as well as in 2022. I believe Kendrick Bourne, in a good offense that's not inept like New England's has been, with better quarterback play, like a Brock Purdy, he can get back to this sustained level of play, where in 2020 and 2021, he had 70-plus targets, 49 catches in 2020, 55 in 2021, 667 yards in 2020 with 2 touchdowns, and in 2021, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. Why would the Niners go this route? Again, he was kind of Jauan Jennings before Jauan Jennings. Swagger, toughness, a willingness to get downfield and block for the ball carrier behind him. Good wide receiver out of the slot. And if you lose Jennings, he would fulfill that role. Kendrick Bourne knows the system. Still only going to be 29 years old, and the Pats' offense was dreadful. So it's really hard to gauge what type of player he is right now, but I believe that Kendrick Bourne could still be a pretty solid player inside Kyle Shanahan's system. Regardless of what happens and who the Niners sign, we're going to talk about every single rumor, every single report, every single addition to this Niners roster, and we're going to the NFL Scouting Combine, so make sure you subscribe for some elite Niners content right here on the Niners Report, and let's get to 131,000 subscribers as soon as possible. More former Niners to discuss, potentially reuniting with this organization in free agency. But first, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, #1 daily fantasy sports app and the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy sports easy. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on the projected stat lines, and you get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Unfortunately, the football season is in the rear view, but I'm excited for the Major League Baseball season. Not as much as Jack Lotteray here at Chat Sports, but I can't wait to watch some baseball. So let's talk about some baseball prize picks. Austin Riley, more than 35.5 jacks. Freddie Freeman, more than 26.5 taters. Freddie Freeman, also more than 176.5 hits. Ronald Acuna, reigning MVP in the NL, more than 37.5 home runs. And Aaron Nola, more than 195.5 strikeouts for the season for the Phillies. Easy and exciting daily fantasy, all made possible thanks to Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Link is hanging out and dangling in the comment section and in the description of this video. This former Niner is the player that I'm interested in the most, and that is Azeez Al-Shaair, who followed Ran Carthon, who used to be a member of this Niners front office from 2017 to 2022. Then he became the general manager for Tennessee and Nashville. And Azeez Al-Shaair followed him because Ran Carthon recognized and realized Al-Shaair is a criminally underrated player. He was overshadowed by the great Fred Warner as well as Dre Greenlaw. But Azeez Al-Shaair last year had an opportunity to prove himself as a starting backer in this league, and he took off with that opportunity. I think that Azeez Al-Shaair would be a great option to take over for Dre Greenlaw. Interesting and fun story here. They roomed together while at training camp when both were playing with San Francisco. In a full-time starting role with Tennessee last year under head coach Mike Vrabel, who was let go, 5th in the NFL in tackles and 5th in tackles for loss. He just has this ability to put his nose wherever the football is and to read and diagnose plays. He was also a pretty solid pass rusher and not afraid to fill the run gaps. And Azeez Al-Shaair is still a young player. He turns 27 years old in August. You look at what he's done over the last 4 years, and we saw the ability with San Francisco. When he had to fill in for Dre Greenlaw a couple of years ago, I thought he was awesome. And in 2021, when he really played a lot, 13 games played, 102 tackles for the Niners, 9 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 5 pass breakups. The year before that, you saw some flashes of what he was capable of. And then in 2022, 13 games played, he was banged up a little bit, 43 tackles and a TFL. But look at what he did for Tennessee last year in a really good AFC conference. 163 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, tying his career high, which he notched in 2021. Again, 5th in the NFL in that category. 2 sacks, some quarterback pressures and hurries, 4 pass breakups. So good against the run, good against the pass. The issue here with Al-Shaair, with how well he played, he's looked at in NFL league circles by front offices as a player who is really starting to blossom as a late bloomer who could really be a starting quality backer who other teams are probably going to be willing to pay on a multi-year deal. And Azeez Al-Shaair may have outpriced himself for what San Francisco is willing to fork over as far as the cash flow. But good news here. If you want another former Niner in the building, Quan Alexander can be had for a very cheap and affordable price. Injury issues for him over the last few years have robbed him of his fullest potential. If you remember, the Niners actually signed him to a 4-year, $54 million contract going into 2019. He got banged up that year, played for the Niners 2019, came back for that playoff run, played in the divisional round, NFC Championship game, as well as in the Super Bowl. But then he was a trade deadline acquisition in 2020 when the Niners traded him to the New Orleans Saints, as the Saints, with the Niners not playing well, looked to bulk up that roster for a potential playoff run. But Quan Alexander got hurt for New Orleans that year, and then this year, while playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he tore his Achilles in Week 10. Obviously, same injury as Dre Greenlaw, but it happened much earlier than Greenlaw. So maybe Quan Alexander wouldn't be ready for Week 1, but maybe he'd be ready at some point early in the year. He's played 22 games, though, in the last 3 years. But if you're looking for a cheap veteran linebacker who has familiarity with the organization, familiarity with the system, who could come back maybe for the start of the season, if not at some point in the early portion of it, then Kendrick Bourne, Azeez Al-Shaair, Quan Alexander, Emanuel Mosley, all these guys have question marks, but they could be options for this football team in the free agency period. And the same can be said for our fifth former Niner, and that is Trent Brown. When he was with the Niners previously, didn't tap into his fullest potential. He really didn't realize that potential until he was with the Oakland Raiders at the time and then the New England Patriots. But Trent Brown spent his first 3 years with the Niners, making 28 starts during that time frame, won a Super Bowl with New England in the 2018 season, made it to the Pro Bowl in 2019, signed a big deal with the Las Vegas Raiders, and then that just ended up being a disaster. So he went back to New England, where he's been over the last couple of years. But New England is kind of entering this rebuilding, retooling phase. So the Patriots voided his contract, making Trent Brown a free agent. But he played really good football for that lackluster Patriots offense this past year. He was one of the bright spots. 579 snaps at left tackle, so obviously he'd have to play right tackle for San Francisco. Only penalized twice. Gave up 3 sacks, 6 hits allowed for that vanilla offense, 17 pressures, a Pro Football Focus grade of 80.2, run blocking grade of 80.7, and a pass blocking grade of 72.8. While he's starting to enter the tail end of his career, and I still think he has some good football left, if the Niners want to fortify right tackle in free agency, they can do it with Trent Brown, who played right tackle for the Niners when he was here previously. So that's 5 former Niners that San Francisco could bring back in free agency, which is set to begin about the second week of March. Which former Niner do you want the Niners to bring back? Let me know by dropping me a name down below in the comment section. And as you venture down there, don't forget to subscribe.